pop. I am baking, I got eggs and some pancakes and some bacon. Oh! We gotta happy feet this. What was that? Okay, moment over. Yo! Yo!
Just threw the axe at his face.
All right, get ready for the most beautiful cutscene ever. Slap the logo right on it. Come on. What?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OPSEAT video podcast. I'm your host, Drew Pejors, or Drew, social media manager for OPSEAT. We created this podcast to introduce you to successful gamers who have used various strategies to build personal brands and make profit with them. Please make sure to like and subscribe wherever you enjoy your live streams or your podcasts. Now, thank you so much for joining us today. If you could do us a favor and tell us a little about yourself or who you are, people might know you.
All right, so my name is Zant, and I'm a Twitch partner. I stream on Twitch basically every single day of the week, and most people know me from Breath of the Wild speedruns, so that's kind of what I've been streaming recently over the past 2 years. But depending on when you heard about me, you may have also heard me through Call of Duty or also Pokemon. I've been involved with those communities in the past in a pretty heavy capacity, but I found my home in the speedrunning community nowadays, and that's kind of just what I do here on Twitch. I just work on speedruns of Breath of the Wild. More specifically, I do kind of like the full process of speedrunning. You know, sometimes with speedruns, you just see people, playing through the game really fast. But I do, my glitch hunting, my routing, practice, all that on the stream, and just make a little bit of a community thing out of it. So, yeah.
And it's truly an adventure to watch. I mean, I've seen so many of even your tweets where you'll be like, I found this new glitch. This could save you. You could launch this far by saving here. It's really cool to see. And out of curiosity, and I'm sure a lot of people are curious too, what in the gaming world kind of started you on that journey? What games did you start playing when you first started?
So the first game I ever played was Super Mario 64, but that didn't really matter. I quickly picked up Zelda right after I got that because it was on the N64, and I became obsessed with Ocarina of Time, and then that just became the series for me. And eventually that just kind of led into me when I got into speedrunning. It led to me trying out Breath of the Wild because it was a game that I had been playing at the time. I'm a big Zelda fan, so obviously I was going to play Breath of the Wild when it came out. And I saw many of my friends getting into speedrunning it. And speedrunning had always been something I'd been, slightly interested in through, we see the massive speedrunning events like Games Done Quick, ESA, things of that sort. And it kind of sparked my interest, and it just stuck for me. And it just really makes me happy that I kind of figured out how to work in my favorite game series with my Twitch stream, because this is basically the first time I've had a Zelda game as the main game I stream. So I just find that really cool.
That is absolutely incredible. I mean, there are a lot of people, Twitch partners, affiliates, or just people starting out who kind of have to find unique niche that may or may not be what they're exactly interested in. So it's really cool you landed in, basically prime real estate for your interests.
Yeah, really cool. Exactly. And it feels like it's kind of been a journey to find that the whole time. And even though I've made it there, it doesn't feel like I've completed anything really. It's just kind of a nice small goal completed, I guess.
Yeah. And just with everything that happened, starting with Super Mario and Ocarina of Time, what actually got you to start speedrunning? Was it just beating the same games over and over a little bit quicker, or?
So I was trying to think of what the earliest instance of me ever trying to do speedrunning was. And, the first game I ever speedrun was Super Monkey Ball 2. I have a friend named Jeff. That's literally his Twitch name. He's a speedrunner of that game, and he had many runs at Games Done Quick. And I saw those runs, and I just became a part of his Twitch community. And, through that, and my interest in just watching speedruns, that kind of got me into it. But if I actually think about it, the first time I actually tried to speedrun a game was back when I was obsessed with RuneScape, like in middle school and high school. Because around 2010 in RuneScape, they added this skill called dungeoneering, and it's basically just like dungeon raids. And it's just like this little repeatable exercise you do, and you get experience in the game every time you do it, and rewards, and all that stuff. But they added a timer for the dungeons, and to train that skill, you need to do dungeons fast. The faster you do the dungeons, the faster XP you get. So that kind of became speedrunning, and it got really competitive and kind of serious at certain points. So, I think that's actually what kind of got me to the idea of starting to look up speedruns on YouTube. And, that kind of led into eventually me being a speedrunner now.
Yeah.
So I'd say that was probably the first instance of it.
That's actually incredible, just like how it was just part of a game that got you interested in this whole realm of get things done faster and see how fast you can actually go.
And also, I guess, I played Super Monkey Ball 2 as a kid as well. And that game is just kind of, if you play it, you try to do the levels quick anyways, because it's just the cool thing to do. I don't know if you've ever seen the game, but yeah, you just have like a monkey and a ball, and you have to get into a goal at the end. And you can do all these crazy stunts to do it too, and it's really fun. And basically anyone who plays the game tries to do that with it. So it kind of like, it leads you to speedrunning it almost.
That's really interesting. Just like, I know there were always games like that for myself where there was, even Sonic, I was the same way, but I definitely played a lot of like Super Monkey Ball. And just like time trials and games after you beat the game.
Exactly. And Mario Kart has time trials too. And I know a lot of people have gotten to speedrunning just through that.
Yeah.
Basically any kind of game that has a timed mode in it.
Yeah. And so it was basically just to kind of gauge how you started creating content online. It was just you got involved in a community and you were like, I could do that too? Or was it something you were like, I can do this better? That made you start to stream games and do your time trials and your speed running?
Okay, so I guess to explain this, it's going to be a bit of story time.
We love story time here.
Okay, because my time on Twitch has been a bit complicated. So basically, first time I ever streamed on Twitch, it was RuneScape. That was like the game I was obsessed with all throughout like middle school, high school. So I didn't take it too seriously. I was just literally streaming the game only, maybe 3 streams. Eventually, a couple of years later, I got into Call of Duty, and I just started streaming that with some friends. It wasn't anything too serious. I was just having fun with it. And then I really got involved with that community, and actually started to use some of my art skills because, I've been a game design major throughout this time as well. Art's always been something that's been very prominent in my life. And so I started doing montage editing, and I developed quite a name for myself in that community. And actually what I got partnered for on Twitch was being a creative streamer, where I streamed video editing. And, that didn't really last too long for me. I got a little sick of it. The community, I had some weird things going on with the community at the time. And then I made the transition over to streaming Pokemon, which was just it was a game series I liked. And I had a few friends at the time who got into shiny hunting. I'm sure you've seen shiny hunting on Twitch. It's become very popular. But and then after that, it became this really rough time for me where I just kind of got sick of streaming, and Pokemon was getting a little boring to me. I didn't really want to go back to Call of Duty, and I just didn't really know what my future of streaming was going to be like. So I was just trying things, and I went variety for a while, and I just started streaming some games, and that's when I tried doing speedruns of Super Monkey Ball for the first time. And the one thing that triggered that was when I attended AGDQ 2017, just as like a member of the speedrunning community. Like, I wasn't there to do a run, I wasn't there to commentate a run, or even like do anything else beyond hang out with friends, but it exposed me to that community in such a way that really made me want to, become more involved and try to learn a speedrun. And so Super Monkey Ball 2, like I said before, that was the first game I had run. That was just the no-brainer first game I had to run. I had a lot of friends who were into it. I was already involved with that game's community. And, it was a game I was already kind of speedrunning, as we discussed before. So once I found that, I kind of started doing some runs of it, but it didn't really stick with me for a while. It just got a little stale. And then when Breath of the Wild came out, as we discussed before, I got really involved with it, and it's what it led into today.
So basically, once you got into the Breath of the Wild community, would you say that was like kind of the aha moment of like you could do this as, you know, I mean, you're playing video games on Twitch every day, which you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So is that when you decided like you're full gung ho, we can do this?
Yeah, that's when it became clear that this is for me. This is where I wanted to be on Twitch, and it's a really comforting feeling having my own, you know, my place on Twitch.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And like I said before, it's really cool that you kind of just like fell into your niche that you absolutely like would have loved even as a kid. So that's really cool. And I know I see that your Twitch account and your YouTube account, they're both doing extremely well. So with all the years that you've been on Twitch and all the years that you've been uploading to YouTube, which one was your favorite?
Favorite overall?
Yeah. From
Twitch.
like Twitch.
Yeah. It's got to be Twitch. And I'm going to be honest, I was never really too active with YouTube. Basically, it was just a portfolio of my edits when I did montage editing back in the day. And, you know, that essentially was the source of most of my subscriptions on YouTube. And then, you know, I have some Breath of the Wild stuff on there now that's gotten some views just because, you know, tutorials do pretty well, things like that. But I've never really taken YouTube too seriously. It's always been, I've just taken Twitch really seriously, and that's been my platform. I find the whole interactivity thing just to be so much more comforting and just so much more easy to work with than making pre-recorded things. And I guess you can argue that YouTube has streaming now, but I got into streaming before that really even became a popular thing. So I just started out on Twitch, and that's kind of what I stuck with. That's where my friends are.
Which makes complete and utter sense, you know?
Yeah.
Why leave something that's, you know, really taking care of you right now? So with this entire journey and, you know, everything where speedrunning is, you can be playing the same game repeatedly over and over again. How do you keep yourself entertained and your audience entertained with speedrunning for those that might not fully understand how cool it is to save 5 minutes on a run?
So this is where it becomes difficult for what I do on Twitch because, you know, I don't just do the speedruns. I do the speedruns, the glitch hunting, the routing, the practice, all on my stream. So, you know, I just try to make it pretty informative, and I just honestly try to make it just a comfortable place for people to hang out. Like, nothing more than that. I'm just pretty basic with it, to be honest. And I feel like I've developed quite a bit of knowledge about Breath of the Wild, like to the point of like mechanics in the game, how they work. Very minuscule levels of detail here. And, you know, through speedrunning, I've just developed that set of knowledge about the game, and that's enabled me to be able to just kind of help people understand the speedruns a little bit more. And I just feel like my stream does a good job of informing people what goes on in a speedrun, other than just, here's a speedrun, this is what I'm doing. Yeah.
And so you mentioned glitch hunting, which is like one of the most exciting things that I get to see you do.
Yes.
How do you even go about that? Like, what makes you think like, okay, in this menu, this might trigger something just by an understanding of game mechanics?
So it entirely depends on the situation. Usually for me, I'm not the kind of person who's literally going to go into game and just try to find a glitch. Like, for me, it's the kind of thing that happens if we get some kind of lead for a glitch. Like, oftentimes we'll get posts on Twitter sent to us. You know, on the Nintendo Switch, you can take the little clips, the little 30-second clips, just post them on Twitter. Oftentimes we'll get sent something like that, and someone has this weird thing that happens in a game. And sometimes it's something like, you know, bouncing off of an enemy across the map of Breath of the Wild. And then when the community sees that, instantly everyone's dissecting it, trying to figure out how to do this. So that's the part where I feel most comfortable, is trying to figure out how to get these glitches that we've found and make them usable. So I think the biggest instance of that I've ever participated in was back about a year ago. We had this clip get sent to us of a person performing this glitch, or not a glitch, but a technique called a stasis launch in Breath of the Wild. It's where there's an ability called stasis. You can just pause objects. If you hit an object with it, it'll just build up energy, and then when that effect expires, it just goes flying in the direction of wherever that energy was. So basically, you can launch an object into Link and make him fly into the distance. But there was this one clip one day of somebody doing that, and they got sent like double the distance as usual, and they were going double the speed, and we had no clue how they did it. Absolutely no clue. And we were able to find out that on the same frame as when Link started gliding, after that, there was a dropped frame right there. And it turns out that if you do a transfer of momentum in the game on a lagged frame, it doubles that speed. So instantly we were able to use this trick in runs after we did a lot of testing and work to come up with a setup for it. And mostly the glitch hunting I do is just kind of working these things into my runs, because Breath of the Wild is such a huge game. It's such an organic game that there's just potential to be breaking this game everywhere. And with that feature I mentioned of the clips on the Nintendo Switch, anybody who's playing the game can record things that they have happened to them in the game and just send them to people. So it's like a daily basis. I'm looking in the Breath of the Wild Discord server, and we got just new glitches coming in. And I have things in my head that I've wanted to be able to skip in the game in my speedruns. And so it's almost kind of like shopping around for, what could I use to actually do something that would save me a lot of time? And then that's what I kind of use to motivate me to actually follow through and work it in and see what I can do with it.
Definitely. It's really cool that you're going in there not to just like replicate glitches, because
yeah,
I guess anybody could replicate glitches, and I think where you shine is you're replicating them for usefulness. So you're weeding out all the like terrible.
You're not
glitches.
trying to make it happen once. You're trying to make it happen every single time you try it.
And the consistency is key for speedrunning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what do you have, like a specific time where you ever played Breath of the Wild and were like, this is your favorite, besides the Stasis launch or anything like that? Is there a specific run like that you have that we might be able to link for the podcast?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to think about this. I think one of the most accomplishing runs I've ever done, and it's not my best run I've ever done either. It's quite old, but my speedrun of All Shrines in about 8 hours, 50 something minutes. I can't remember the exact number. It was my first sub 9 hour All Shrines run. So All Shrines, all 120 of the shrines in the game. It was my first run under 9 hours, and also the first run to beat the previous record holder, who had that record for a long time. But I took the category, I completely rerouted it with some of the newer tricks that we had found recently in the game, and I ran it, and I beat his record. And that was like one of the first times I actually had a real record that I was proud of. And that was a major accomplishment to me. And actually right now I'm actually working on that same category again, and I'm pushing for, believe it or not, a sub 8 now. So
incredible.
Yeah. It's come a long ways.
So with all this, what about yourself do you think is like the singular trait that helps you become, as successful as you have? Do you think it's the knowledge base, or is it your personality to create, an open environment?
I feel like it's my personal ability to stay motivated with something that I really am passionate about. Because Breath of the Wild, to me, it's not something that I'm just gonna stop doing someday. It's more of like a hobby that I'm pretty committed to. And with things that I'm committed to, Breath of the Wild and speedrunning is one of them. And, that goes hand in hand with Twitch. All of my art stuff I do is another one. But those things, I just feel limitless motivation to work on those and continue them. And even when things get really rough, I can just kind of look to that and still feel the motivation to move forward, even no matter how bad it gets sometimes. But yeah, I guess that's a good answer.
That's a fantastic answer. So you with the community that you have and a lot of people who love speedrunning and anything like that, do you ever let the audience like kind of dictate what games you might also speedrun, even if you have no desire to play it at all?
So actually, not really. On my stream, I basically don't really stream anything other than Breath of the Wild. Up until recently, I've added a day into my stream recently where I can just stream anything I want, because I feel like I've needed that freedom.
Yeah.
But In the past, when I did Pokemon and shiny hunting, I would let the community decide what game I'd play some days, because it's Pokemon. You got a whole bunch of these different games you can shiny hunt on. So which one do you pick? But with Breath of the Wild, it's like all of my work is centered in this one game. So it's like, how do I branch from that and still get progress done? Like, even on days that I'm just practicing, it may seem like just a chill practice stream, but that's progress I'm making towards an overall, getting a good time in a run. So I guess the main thing with me with streaming is I try to be productive towards my speedruns.
Yeah.
With every single stream. But
hopefully that gets you down to your sub 8, and you're not having to worry about. I mean, how many people would you say kind of do what you do, where they're trying to speedrun Breath of the Wild as consistently?
I know there's quite a lot of people that speedrun Breath of the Wild, but people who also do like routing and all that stuff on stream, maybe not so much. I know of a couple other people that do, but it's not as much as people who just pick up the game and start speedrunning it.
Yeah.
Like, I have bigger intentions with the game than that. I don't just want to pick it up and speedrun it. I want to understand it and be a part of the game in depth, to a greater degree than just doing a speedrun of it. I want to understand this game to a great amount of detail and be able to do basically anything speedrunner related within it, not just a singular category.
Yeah. And I know after, recent announcements, are you extremely excited about Breath of the Wild 2?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So I did not expect them to reveal that when they did. I don't think anybody did. Like, that E3 conference was lit up until that point. Like, right after they revealed Banjo, everyone was just like, done. That's the conference. We're done. And they dropped that, and I saw it, and I just broke down. That was like the best day of my life, because Breath of the Wild, it's a game that means a lot to me. Like, it's almost like a separate world that I can escape to whenever I want. And it's like really comfortable to me in that way, and really just, I don't know, it's meaningful to me. And to see them making a direct sequel to it that's going to be in the same world, and it's going to be darker. Like, I've been screaming, I want a dark Zelda game for how long? My Twitch name is Zant. That's the main enemy in Twilight Princess, which is like the darkest Zelda game. Like, I want a dark Zelda game, and it looks like we're getting it with like Breath of the Wild's open world. I'm hyped. I'm sold.
I would have
give me 10
as much. Yeah, give you 10 of them. And with I mean, that's just gonna open up like just boundless, days, months, and years of content for you. So I'm really excited for you.
Yeah, it just, that kind of makes me just really questioning where I'm gonna be in life at that point, because alongside streaming, I'm working towards getting a career in the game industry, and within the next year I was planning on having a job. But Breath of the Wild 2, speedrunning that sounds really nice, and I just don't know how long I can continue full-time streaming like this anymore, just for personal reasons. But that's gonna maybe give me an excuse in a couple years to come back to it full stop, depending on when the game comes out. Of course, we don't really know when it's coming out. It could be 3 years from now for all we know. Yeah. But yeah, it's just, that's the kind of game that just makes you really want to think about the future, because I know that's going to be something I'm going to be streaming and speedrunning and participating in to a pretty large degree.
And I mean, certainly all of us here at OPSEAT are excited to see the content that you create, or
Thank you.
I think I always find it interesting to find just the things that you repost on Twitter or the videos that you make. But I mean, talking about like, possibly not wanting to full-time stream for, the rest of your life or anything like that, or maybe find a job in your field because you have the degree and everything. What do you think about the state that Twitch as a platform is currently in for people starting to stream, or people have been doing it for years?
I think it's in an actually fantastic spot for people who are starting to stream. Just looking back to when I started to stream, affiliates weren't a thing. Oh my gosh, I can't even think of how many things weren't even a thing then. Like, oh my gosh, I remember
you used to have 400 concurrents, and you had to wait
stuff like that. What's another one? I remember when you used to hit 40 viewers, you would finally get transcodes in your stream, and it would be the best thing ever.
Those were exciting.
Yeah. But Twitch was just bits weren't a thing. subscription tiers weren't a thing. Gosh, just affiliates not being a thing back then. That's huge. If we had affiliates back then, I feel like my time on Twitch would have been much different, because the road to partner for me, that was something I worked really hard for, and it just felt like a road that you couldn't finish until you get to a certain point. And affiliates is a really good way that they've bridged that. Like, they give you a staircase basically to get there in a way, but it gets a little steep at times. It's still something to bridge that gap, and that's something I would have killed for back then. So I think Twitch is in a pretty good place today to get started with streaming. I do think it's becoming a bit oversaturated, but that's just what happens with things as time goes on, as things get popular. It's just it's inevitable.
Yeah, and looking back at everything, I know we didn't have the same road to partner or path to affiliate or anything like that. I know through many years of stream, there was probably a couple things you would have done differently. What is anything that might have stood out that you would have maybe changed if you had known what you know now?
I feel like I would have focused on my community a little bit more, especially as I transitioned to Breath of the Wild. I feel like I really fell off on the whole community side of my stream and really just started focusing on the game itself and just the content. And just part of me, back from when I was streaming Pokemon, I had a booming community. It was crazy. Like, every single night in my Discord server, people in voice chat just hanging out, and it was just like a big old group of friends. And I just don't really have that anymore. It's just not because of a major mistake I've made with my stream. It's just kind of how it's evolved to be, because Breath of the Wild is, as a speedrun, it's something I have to put a lot of energy into. And it's not just as simple as, opening a Pokemon game, pressing a button every, 10 seconds and talking to a chat while I'm just cycling through encounters. So I just found it really difficult to keep up community-wise as I transitioned into speedrunning. And that's something I really wish I would have paid more attention to. Nowadays, I feel like I've done some good catch-up with that, and I feel like I've developed quite a strong community. But gosh, there's a lot of stress I've gone through because losing a bit of your community is never a fun thing.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a source of a lot of the anxiety I've had around streaming in the past. So that's definitely one thing that I would have done differently.
But luckily, I know you go to a couple of different events, Anley, thing like that, whether it's in your area or we were talking about an event you were going to before we jumped on the podcast. Luckily, your community, you're able to find at some of these events. Can you tell us about the event that you're going to?
All right, so Summer Games Done Quick, 2019. I'm headed out literally Friday at 6 in the morning for a week long, but it's a charity live stream event, and Games Done Quick hosts 2 a year. One that supports Doctors Without Borders and one that supports Prevent Cancer. And basically, it's just a week long live stream marathon, 24/7 of speedruns. And it's kind of like the speedrun community coming together just to put on this live stream and raising money for this great cause. And it's basically speedrunning mecca at the event. They've got rooms with just tons of TVs and people practicing strats and working on things, hanging out. You could see all your friends that you've been talking to on Twitch for the longest time. It's just a really fun place to be, and it's a really fun time on Twitch when the stream is on during the week. Because even before I started going to the events, every single time Games Done Quick was on and I was on Twitch during that week, I was watching the stream. And it's really cool to me that I've started to be able to attend the events. Like I mentioned before, AGDQ 2017 was the first one I attended, and that was before I even tried speedrunning at all. And that's what inspired me to get into it. And since then, I've been to every single one of the events. So, yeah, I'm related. I literally can't describe how excited I am for this event.
That's fantastic.
It's like a birthday or holiday every just 6 months for me, because that's when I get to go to them.
That's pretty cool. So will you be attending this one, or will you be putting on a run during the event?
So I'm not doing a run at this event. However, Breath of the Wild does have a run by a runner named Woolhike, and he's running any percent, and I'm going to be commentating. So I'll be on the stream for a little bit. You'll see me on the couch commentating a little bit. So that's going to be fun. And that'll
Actually-
be, I think it's next Friday at 11 p.m.
That's actually really amazing, considering that's only, we're in 2019. So within 2 years, you became, audience member. And now you're going to be sitting at the couch, or other events should be.
Well, this isn't the first time I've been at the couch. I've been on the couch 2 other times. Actually, the first GDQ after Breath of the Wild launched, I was on the couch just basically, I think because I was really like one of the only people there that ran the game, and there was a run. And then after that, I was on the couch again, probably for the same reason. And now I'm on the couch just because, I feel like I'm friends with the person who's running and the people who are on the couch, and we're just the Breath of the Wild community that's going to be there.
Yeah, and obviously you're extremely knowledgeable about the game and the runs and the glitches that you need to be doing to do them. So it just goes hand in hand.
I don't know about that. But actually, one other thing. This is actually the first event that I've gone to that's going to have a lot of other Breath of the Wild runners there. So I've been to every single GDQ since the game came out, and so far I think the most other Breath of the Wild runners that's been at the event is 2. And this time I think there's going to be 6. Yeah, like lots of people who I've known for quite a while that I haven't met yet. And I'm really excited.
I would be as well. It's amazing bringing up like the community that you grow on Twitch, whether it be other broadcasters or audience members, and bringing them together in like one place. It's really amazing.
It's a really good environment. I can't describe the feeling when you're just at an event and you just meet up with your online friends in person. It's awesome. It feels like high school.
Basically. So what would, if anybody was trying to kind of get into what you do, whether it's a speedrunner or a Twitch streamer, what's one solid piece of advice you typically give to people if they came up to and ask you at one of these events?
So I think getting into Twitch or speedrunning or anything content creation online, just do what you enjoy. Like, take the gaming interests you already have, run with it, make content on it, do things with it. And that's something I wish I would have done from the beginning. RuneScape was the #1 game I played for like my entire childhood, and I have never had that as my main game ever on any of my platforms. And I kind of started with Call of Duty, which was my content built off of my my casual interest in the game. But I just feel like people need to really just do what they love on Twitch. Like, don't pick a game that you think is going to get you views or supporters or make you a part of a very specific community. Do what you want, and you'll make friends. You'll meet other like-minded people, and you could do basically anything on Twitch, no matter like on the internet, no matter how niche something is. If I can be a Twitch partner for doing Breath of the Wild, speedrunning, routing, practice streams, like, I think you can do basically anything.
Yeah.
I know some games get even more niche than that, but if it's out there, there's an audience for it. And there's nothing that people want to see more than someone playing a game that they really love.
Yeah. And it's fantastic to know that, like, I don't typically get to talk to anybody who like is in their niche, which is, like I said it before, it's incredible, and it's very rare to see on Twitch because a lot of people kind of sacrifice their directory for their audience.
As unfortunate as that is, it's kind of understandable because a lot of people's niches are things that are very difficult to get traction on. But it's just all about the connections you make, I think, and what you do with it. And you've got to have your own creative spin on things too. Definitely. That's something I think a lot of people really overlook.
Yeah. And you've been able to build this like extremely sustainable audience, and you've been able to start attending these events and everything. You were partnered on Twitch. You have a sizable YouTube channel. Was there any time during all the streaming where everything really stood out as a pretty hefty roadblock, or maybe you didn't want to do it anymore?
I can think of 2. So, and they're both pretty similar. One is quitting Call of Duty, and 2 is quitting Pokemon. So, transitioning my stream those 2 times was very difficult. when I stopped doing montage editing for Call of Duty, that was probably the worst, because I went from Call of Duty first person shooter sniping montages to shiny Pokemon.
It's a pretty big
Like,
difference right there. Yeah.
That's a pretty big difference. And as you could imagine, there was quite some toxicity I had to deal with there. A lot of stress I went through. There were some really awful streams that I had to go through during that. And that was probably one of the times where I seriously considered quitting Twitch. It was even within the first year of me getting partnered that I was thinking about that. And that felt like just a complete knock to my motivation at all costs. It was just, I don't know, it was not a good time. And then I found Pokemon. I became involved with that community, and I found a lot of really nice people in that community. And, still some of the friends that I have today are people I met from that time. And, things worked out for the better. I, eventually went on to be a pretty successful Pokemon streamer, and I was pretty happy with that. But then, that just, we talked about this in the past and, earlier a little bit, but I did get a little bit burnt out from Pokemon as time went on, and that eventually led to me wanting to quit that, and eventually led into speedrunning. That transition was difficult for a completely different reason for me, and I think we touched on this before as well, but that was because I just felt like I was having a hard time figuring out what I wanted to do on Twitch. It wasn't that I didn't have the motivation for it. I really wanted to stream. I had the taste of being a gaming streamer at that point, because I was a pretty successful Pokemon streamer. Before that, I had only done creative streams on Twitch. I really haven't experienced much gaming streaming outside of before I got partnered. So, that really helped my motivation, but that transition was really difficult because I just lost sight with what I wanted to do. And I'm just thankful that Breath of the Wild kind of fixed that for me. So that worked out for the better.
Yeah, it's really cool to see the stream like a great place and everything. Especially, like, not a lot of people can recover, directory changes after solely focusing on one game, unless they had dedicated themselves as a variety streamer beforehand. So to do that twice is absolutely incredible. Between
it's been a rough road.
Yeah, but it's really cool to see you keep up with it and to be as successful as you are. And through all this, there has to have been like a favorite peripheral or something that you might have used. Like, some people love their mics or their monitors or their keyboards. What would you say your favorite one is?
Oh gosh. Okay. This is going to be pretty specific. Well, I mean, not crazy specific, but it's something that not a lot of people have. And this isn't even relevant to my stream nowadays, but my Loopy 3DS capture card. So it's basically a 3DS, the same 3DS that, it was my first 3DS I ever got, that my parents bought for me back in like 7th grade. When I wanted to get into streaming Pokemon, how do you stream a 3DS game? What, do you point a camera at it? Like, that was the first thing that I tried. It didn't really work out too well. And then I discovered that there are people online that will modify your 3DSs if you send them into them, and actually basically add a little capture board and a USB socket to the back of the 3DS that you can USB to your computer, and it basically just acts like a capture card. So you can stream off the 3DS, capture all the gameplay and stuff. And so there was a person who went by the name of Loopy, who was here in the US, and he had a business and made these. And Loopy was one of the only people you could get these from, and the other was a Japanese company. And then there's another company in Europe, but I don't think they ship to the US. You have to go through some long process to get from them. So getting a capture card from Loopy became a pretty rare thing, because he was one person, and you have this entire community of people wanting to get these capture cards. And I remember the first capture card I got, the 3DS capture card, was actually one from the Japanese company. And that was really expensive, and it took like 8 months for them to return it to me. It was just a long process. But I remember when I got the Loopy capture card, it was just such better quality. I got it back within like 2 weeks, and I still have the thing today. I sold the old one because I quit Pokemon, but this one, I'm keeping it. And actually, about a little less than a year ago, Loopy actually stopped making capture cards, as far as I am aware. So this thing I have is like gold.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping it. And it's always going to be a way that I'll be able to stream 3DS games, which I feel like is pretty unique. And that's something that I think is going to be really rare moving forward. Like, say, 20, 30 years from now. Like, who's going to have a 3DS capture card? Like, who's going to be making 3DS capture cards 20, 30 years from now?
Really nobody.
Yeah, it's kind of just, it's basically just a little prized possession of mine. And it was one of my streaming peripherals at one point.
Which is...
And it's also kind of meaningful that it was my first 3DS ever. So that was the one that I happened to get modified and I kept.
That's really incredible. Those things are...
Oh, and then I guess my Switch Pro controller. It's the Xenoblade edition, but I changed the grips to be the black ones instead of red because I didn't like the red ones. I don't know.
That's really cool. And then basically, we also were wondering, what is the one thing that made you love Zelda personally throughout all this? Like, what attracted you, even like with outside of Twitch, outside of streaming? Was it the level design? Was it the mechanics of the game, or was it the story that kind of caught your attention to where you have all this love for Zelda?
It was kind of the epic journey adventure aspect to it. I'm an Eagle Scout. I did Boy Scouts all the way from like elementary school all the way to Eagle Scouts. So I've been hiking all of my life. I've been adventuring all my life. That translated directly into video games. That's just kind of what got me into Zelda. It was the most similar game that I had to, you know, my outdoor experiences. And yeah, that's basically it. And I was addicted from the start.
It's really amazing. Again, I've harped on it a lot just to see that you turn this love of this game into, you know, realistically a career. Especially it brought you into game design where you got your degree and everything, which you're trying to get into. And speedrunning, you know, I'd say one of the hardest games to get into for that. So
it's quite a lot.
And it has truly been an honor to have you on the podcast. Now, if you could just like let us know, you know, when you stream and where we can find more of the content that you make, that'd be awesome.
All right, so you can find me at twitch.tv/Zant, literally just Zant. So my stream schedule varies a bit, but I do my speed runs on Mondays and Fridays. So those are my 2 days that I do my runs. Wednesday, like I said, that's when I just kind of play whatever. And recently, I've been playing Stardew Valley with my partner Riley. We've been doing a multiplayer farm, so we're farming every Wednesday now. And then every other day of the week, Tuesday, Thursday, I just kind of dedicate to practice and, you know, working on some glitch hunting if there's anything that comes up. But if you want to find my stream schedule, that's in the description of my Twitch channel, you know, in the panels. And then I also have it pinned on my Twitter account. But my times are like different every single day, so I feel like it'd be kind of dumb to say them here.
Well, thank you, truly, Zant, for joining us on the OPSEAT podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been an honor. I'm glad to be a part of the family.
I look forward to all the content and all the, you know, I wish you the best of luck on the sub 8 speed run.
Thank you.
I'd love to like get pinged when that happens, so I can definitely watch it.
I'm gonna need the luck on that one. That's gonna be pretty tough. It's an 8-hour category, so it's, you know, doing one run of it. I can only do 2 per week, so it's gonna take some effort.
Well, if anybody can do it, it's certainly Zant. All right, thank you, truly.
Thank you.